do you feel like no one more than any other time the quarterback is the most important player in history? You know, at this moment, how important quarterbacks in the history of the game? I think the most important is right now. You have to have a great quarterback.
Are you talking about NFL?
NFL.
I think there's no question about it. And I think you see that, especially when teams lose their quarterback, it's because that seems to happen an awful lot. I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks started last year, the number, but I'm guaranteed it was way more than 32.
And welcome to this week's edition of the 941 Sports Zone podcast. I'm John Massoni here with my regular partner, John Peacock. And Coach, last week we talked a little baseball as a big part of our show with our guest Josh Grant being on here last week. Talked a little bit about the Rays, with their up and down sort of ways they've been the last couple of weeks. And we went on to talk a little bit more about our Suncoast Gridiron Media Day we had here at Douglas Seapick a few weeks ago, which is now, as I predicted, the most watched podcast we've had so far this year.
Hey, hats off to you guys. That was a good deal. I thought you guys did an excellent job. You got some exposure for these programs and got the coaches to talk about their kids. I thought that was awesome. I sat and watched. I think I sat and watched Saturday, pretty much the whole show. But great job.
What I think you probably can attest to this too. Some of the programs that don't get a lot of exposure.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, and see how
and those kids, you know, and the kids in the program. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was great. You know, I thought they did a good job. And
what I liked about it is that, you know, wasn't a lot of X and O's talk, a little bit here and there. We talked a lot of X and O's with the 8-man guys because we didn't really, when I was new to us to talk about 8-man football, but really to see how they're very much about establishing a culture for the kids, successful culture. If that can get them into a school afterwards to play sports, or if it's just going to give them the opportunity to be leaders in their community, it's really seen to emanate from those schools all the way up to the top 4S schools.
Yeah, and it gets me excited. You know, I always call this time of year the Twitter season. You know, Twitter season is about to end, and you know people are going to start playing, and we're going to find out who's really put the work in the off season.
And not to pile on or talk even more about how hot it is right now, but you know, Florida summer football, we know how hot it is. But this is sort of tinkering into unprecedented for all of us, for you to be out in practice, and for me to be out working in it, for us both to complain about it. It's a lot.
Well, you know, I guess it's just kind of new because you know we've been going in the morning, and we've been done at 9:45 at the latest. You know, and today, I think we started at 3:30 because we lifted first, and oh my gosh, it was blazing out there.
Yeah, and it looks like there's nothing for the rest of this week. This is Monday. We're taping our show, but for the rest of the week, it looks like it's going to be 96, hotter. 95, and then with no chance. Well, I shouldn't say no chance. You might get a passing shower here.
We need
there,
some rain. We're just going to start fires.
We do, and I've sort of been saying this in the social groups and whatnot, but at the place where the drought is the most is exactly the area that the hurricane hit last year. So I don't know if they have anything to do with each other, but coincidentally, but it's like you look at that little red area where we're in an extreme drought. It is the area where the hurricane passed through. So maybe it's Mother Nature balancing us out after 20 weeks or 20 inches of rain last year. Maybe we're not going to get any until
that's possible.
Who knows? I will say this though, and I'm not a weather man or whatever, but if something boils up in the Gulf of Mexico, I'm leaving. Because, you know, you ever see those movies where it says like mega storm category 7? Yeah. It might be something that's off.
Yeah, because the water is probably 98 degrees, so it's probably close to boiling.
It was 101 in the Keys one day. That's, you know, I'm like, if it hits 101 degree water, it's going to be like the world's largest F5 tornado or something. It's going to be crazy. So we'll see, everybody. Hopefully we're not worrying about that stuff. I can have continued heat right through October if it means I don't have to deal with any of that stuff that we dealt with last year, for sure. with that, we'll tack over to our local part of our program. And Coach, tonight we're figured, since you're going to be real busy the next 15, 16 weeks.
Hopefully,
yeah. So we don't know how much you're going to be with us, depending on your schedule and whatnot. And we also do another show together, which is the John Peacock Coaches Show. We'll be doing that as well. So not to stress you or stretch you too far out there, but we figured we'd talk a little football tonight. We'll talk, locally about some of the high schools and preview some of the stuff there. We'll go in a little bit of college football. I'll try to concentrate on the state of Florida, but my goodness, what happened over the weekend with the Pac-12 football?
What's going on?
Well, it's an implosion.
It's just automatically they're done.
Well, there's 4 teams left. Now it's the Pac-4.
But they're able to just say, "Hey, I'm out."
Well, there's buyouts and all that stuff, and we'll get into that a little later. But it's a little complicated. But yeah, I mean that's the case, and that's the way it's going. And so we're looking at 4 power conferences, with the ACC still trying to figure out what they're doing at this point, with Florida State tinkering with the idea.
So who's left in the Pac-12?
Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal.
All right. Well, that's got to mess up the bowls.
Well, so you think about the Rose Bowl, that's had a Pac-10, Pac-12,
Right.
Pac-8, whatever it's been over the years, tie-in with the Big Ten. Really, it's eliminated. Now it's going to become the Rose Bowl. Now has no real affiliations in regards
But
to
the
that.
schedule can't change.
No, not now, because all this doesn't happen until next year.
Oh, so they're still in right now.
It's still the same for now.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I was like, they're out right now?
No, there's too many scheduling things to take care
Right.
of. All those logistical things have to be taken care of. So, but it really came down to the final straw for the Pac-12 was a very sort of incompetent commissioner of the Pac-12, sort of touting a potential TV contract, and then he rolled something out from Apple TV or Apple Plus that really didn't appeal to anybody from a fan base and or the participating teams in the conference. So that when that happened, he rolled that out at their media day, whatever you want to call it. It was the writing was on the wall. They were all going to look for a new spot to go to. So
Right.
We'll see where it ends up. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and talk a little high school football. And Coach, obviously, what we know a lot about is the 4S category. We'll start with the 1S category, looking at the District 6, Cardinal Mooney and John Carroll Catholic. Don't know much about John Carroll Catholic, but I also know it's a 2-team district. So I think 1S, I think it has to be the champion is in, because 1S is
Automatic, yeah. Automatic
Yeah.
district champs are in. I think Mooney's I think they have a pretty good They have a pretty good football team.
Yeah,
I think
they've been putting some talent out there.
I think they have 4 or 5 Division I kids. The quarterback is Valentino.
Yep.
He's a pretty talented player, and we know very, very much about him, and I'm sure that they're going to have a great season. And obviously, they just got to beat one person in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
I just practice for them all year.
Yeah, that's the one you're in, you win.
Right.
You're good to go. So we'll see how then we'll keep an eye on Cardinal Mooney, the local team in that district. The 2S District 15, the teams I should say, Bayshore, Booker, DeSoto, and Lemon Bay. Bayshore coming off of a year I'm sure that they weren't too happy with. Looking at Coach Sanders, he didn't have, it was no wins and coming off a tough season. And in a district with Booker in it, and Booker is on the rise with Scotty Littles.
I would say that district is probably going to be one of the most entertaining ones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you never know. Lemon Bay flashes every 4 or 5 years when they're really good.
Right.
And DeSoto, you never know.
Well, DeSoto was the district champion last year.
Right. Well,
So-
just barely, right?
Yeah.
I think they beat Booker.
Yes.
Right, but they lost to somebody else. And then Bayshore, they've got some kids. They got a couple transfers, and then they got a whole new staff over there. So
And guys that some names, Breon Carnes
Right.
being one of them in particular, they were at Sarasota, but they so when I talked to everybody on media day, Bayshore back in the day, Manatee County, Bayshore was the team.
yeah, you got Pig Golf.
You had guys that were coming from. I mean, they used to play at the Manatee's field. That's where they played.
Right.
They played there, and they all shared that field for a portion of time.
Well, in 2000 when we won the state championship, I think the score against Bayshore was 10-0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always was a good team. So I think they're on the rise. But I looking at it, I mean Booker's just seems like they got some guys. They look like they've got that program back on track again with Scotty Little. So we'll see how that works out.
But I just looking at it, it's almost like if any of those teams won the district, you wouldn't be
No.
shocked.
No, you wouldn't. And if it was Bayshore, it would be one heck of a story.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a media guy, you that would be the one you'd want to see.
That'd be a turnaround.
That would be the turnaround of all time.
And the next one too, the 3S
Yeah.
District 13 with Braden River Parish Community and Port Charlotte. I mean,
And Southeast. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty interesting too. I mean, because Braden River, they've had some really good football teams in the past. Parish Community last year started 5-0, started off real hot, and then Port Charlotte, I guess they returned their entire team
Yeah.
except the quarterback
Yeah.
Eli Manley,
That's
who's
it. That's
another
it.
Venice guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, he said, we're all coming back. Coach Ingman said that they're all, and I was like, wow, okay, I didn't realize it was that much of a, that much of a,
They got
of a
really good. I
return.
think they got a really good running back and a very highly recruited D lineman.
D end. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
a D end. Yep. And then, of course, you never can count out Southeast. I mean, it's just one
Yeah,
of
you
those.
never know.
You just
Yep.
never know what's going to happen with Southeast. And like I said, so that's a very competitive district. I had mentioned that the kickoff classics, all the games that are come up on the week of the 18th, week from this coming up Friday. The one I looked at the most that seemed to watch is Port Charlotte versus Bishop Verot. Bishop Verot's got a top level quarterback down there.
Yes.
And they were I think a state semifinalist last year. So that's a heck of a kickoff classic. A lot of teams always have good matchups, but that one really kind of popped off the page for me. Moving forward to the 4 S's, which is 3 districts, starting down south with Charlotte, Ida Baker, Lehigh, and Riverdale. And we have meaning Venice, have a lot to look at with that district because that's somebody that usually falls into our region. So that would be our regional district. So last year it was Lehigh and Riverdale coming out of that district.
Well, someone will fall out. That will be someone in our region,
Right.
for sure. And that doesn't mean we'll play him, but at least one of them will be in our region,
Right.
if not multiple ones.
And Lehigh had last year they had the big running back that went off to Alabama.
Right.
And
they had more than that. They were a pretty talented football team.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So again, that district is something we'll keep. That'll be about week 6 or 7. That's something that to start looking and see how they're all shaking out. District a little north of us, the 4S District 13 is Lakewood Ranch, Manatee, and Palmetto. Very competitive district right there.
I think that's definitely going to be in between Palmetto and Manatee.
Coach Brazelton was here, a good friend of yours. Palmetto, the two young men he brought with him, fired up. They're ready to go. They were fired up. They were talking about how each one of them makes the other one better and how they have their goals, and they were on point. You want to see that from all your players to have that kind of sort of focus and be able to have that feeling about it. But they look like But it is interesting to see because all these years gone by, this being of Manatee legacy. That Manatee and Palmetto were never the same size schools.
Right.
They only played because they had to, or they were, whatever. But they didn't play in a district together. They didn't play each other, whatever. But to have them in this district, that really, really intensifies that rivalry.
Yeah, and I think Manatee is going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit for. They had a really tough defensive line, and then Palmetto. I think they lost a couple receivers, but they had like 4 really, really good players at playing receiver, and then their quarterback. They got Lakewood Ranch's quarterback.
That's going to mention that because now the head coach from Lakewood Ranch, Coach West, goes to Palmetto and brings the quarterback. And quarterback is there with him now, and so yeah, I mean it's definitely that definitely cranks up the rivalry with Palmetto as well with that. And I'm sure a friendly rivalry, but nonetheless a rivalry altogether. So that's going to be a very, very good district to watch as well. Though there'll be somebody we wouldn't see or Venice wouldn't see in the regions until.
Well, no, you don't know. It could be first round, second round. You never know.
Yeah,
because you could get more than one out of your. I want to say last year, Palmetto, Manatee, Sarasota, Riverview, Venice were all in the playoffs.
Yes,
in the region,
and then Palmetto ended up losing to Lehigh is what happened.
Right.
Otherwise, we would have played Palmetto.
Right.
And then finally, the 4S District 14, Riverview, Sarasota, and Venice. Another good. I mean, all these teams at the last 2 districts in particular.
Yeah,
playoff teams, right?
I mean, Riverview, Coach Smithers always does a great job getting his team ready, and they got another quarterback from Venice. That could be the starter, in Anthony Miller, who's got a really strong arm and really talented, a dual threat guy. And also, I'm interested to see, just as a kind of a fan, like how Phillips turned Sarasota around, or what happens there.
No, I mean he's like I said, we had him here as a guest now media day, and then before that, and really got himself focused in.
Well, he's the smartest guy.
You'd have to assume that, right?
He's the smartest coach on the list on all these.
He's a Yale graduate, so it makes him
right. I mean, he's got to be. There's no way that anyone else is close to him, and I'm not talking about just ours, but all of the classes here.
Yeah, no, he's like I said, and he was very impressive with his messaging and what he was trying to do with those kids. And he came in I came in on Monday. We taped his segment for the media day, and kids were good. They were talking. They're impressive, So it was good to see. And again, so it's nice that if one good thing that I know you weren't a big fan of the reclassification with the 4 S's and the 4 M's and all that stuff, but it's made the district smaller, and it's made them more localized. You don't have this 7-team district where you have to play 6 teams and you're traveling to St. Petersburg or you're traveling to Naples or whatever it may be. Everything is super concentrated, and sort of intensifies what already were rivalries in and around the area.
I think what they did is they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. One, the state's making more money. You have these games that mean a lot. Like we played, what round did we play Riverview in last year?
Third, we're regional championship.
Yeah, so third round you have Venice and Riverview playing. So that's what they wanted to accomplish. They wanted the Riverview Venice, and they want the Sarasota Riverview in the region game where they have a huge crowd and they're collecting a big paycheck.
Right. And then the state whoever hosts the semifinal game, that's always going to be a big gate, because you've got to. Who wouldn't want to go see the state semifinal right in their backyard?
Right.
So that's always a big one as well. So no, you're right. They accomplished what they were looking to accomplish. I think it did allow other teams that were sort of being kept out of that state championship, opportunities. They allowed other teams to sort of get in there, which is nice. And so I think that accomplished that. But again, it's like you said, you want to play the best when you get to the end.
Yeah. I just don't agree with the punish the pretty girl. Punish the pretty girl attitude. Like just because certain teams are winning, we're going to punish them and try to make them not win. Like,
right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and like I said, but I'm sure there's somebody right now doing the same thing we're doing, and looking and seeing those schools that should be natural rivals in districts together, like Miami Central and Northwestern, all of them. All those games they played before that were just sort of bragging rights now have all the implications attached to them in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think Central plays Northwestern in the Kickoff Classic, so we'll probably be able to see that film, and because we have them week 3. Maybe we don't see that film. I don't know.
Yeah, but still, I mean, but down, in those different places, and so I'm sure it's happening in Orlando, it's happening in Jacksonville, it's happening in all the big areas, Tampa. These schools now are being district together, and it makes for some fun games early on, and when the district game comes up, it means everything even more so. Yeah,
for sure. Like it's just looking at the district. I mean, it's just real interesting games, especially if you're a football fan. Like they're interesting games to see who's going to come out and win.
There's no doubt that every week there's going to be 2 or 3 games that are highlighted type of scenarios where you're going to say that's a game of the week potential right there. Right. It had so much on the line, and again, everybody's you're now going to play again. I'll use the so let's say Braden River Southeast. That's a great rivalry, because they're right down the street from each other, and so that could be that game could be whatever week 3, week 4, and it's on. It's happening then and there, and it means everything in that district. So I think all these different places you're looking at, maybe with the maybe Charlotte might be the only one that doesn't have maybe a little bit of the rival in their district, but nonetheless, it's a competitive district.
No, you're right. Yeah, I kind of lost track of those teams that down south with Charlotte, Ida Baker, and Lehigh, because we haven't played anybody down south unless it's real down south.
Yeah, and it's funny because it seems like that flip flops every 10 years. Like you play a bunch of teams from the north, and then you see them. Then all of a sudden then you get the South teams. Like for a long time,
South Fort Myers,
Charlotte, Naples, South Fort Myers. We were playing all those different schools, and now it seems to be more concentrated to a little bit closer to home and a little north of us as well. So anyway, so that's just sort of a kind of a quick overview. Gosh, great! It's great to see football start. Now I know, even though it's hot, it's fun. Everybody's getting their last bit of work in, and then I guess Kickoff Classic. I mean, what's your goal with the Kickoff Classic game? Is it to sort of get? Is it truly a dress rehearsal, or is it more just trying to get everybody's used to playing at night and getting their gear, or what is it you're looking to accomplish?
Well, I think we always go into it and we approach it like a regular game. We don't approach it as a scrimmage or a dress rehearsal. I mean, because I think we can say, hey, yeah, it's a dress rehearsal or it's a scrimmage, but you lose that game. I mean, there's a chink in the armor, and football's a little different. It's not like baseball where, oh, we lost the game, like everyone's supposed to lose the game.
Yeah.
Football, there's a lot of egos, and we get beat by somebody, and all of a sudden, your chest isn't sticking out so far. So we're going to approach it like a regular game. Obviously, there's between the first game and the second game, that's where the most improvements are made.
And I was going to mention that you've said that before.
So we're gonna act like it's any other game.
Right, and I think that's the best approach, because if you don't, then you're not really giving yourself a fair shake. Somebody could get hurt. If you don't have that same intensity to the game, you don't want to do that. You want to go into it with the idea that it does matter, and that's why I think a lot of times you see a lot of these schools and they're picking games that are going to really give them a good start to the season, a test, and they're going to go out there and we're going to.
Oh, there's some great games in the Kickoff Classic. Great games.
And in years gone by, you didn't see that. You didn't have like a lot of great games in the Kickoff Classic. You just got somebody and you fit the bill. The spring game was actually more competitive, or more of a big thing than even the Kickoff Classic. But I think now coaches realize that, like you said, they all count a lot with the point systems and everything else. So if you're not starting off fast, and you're not, you got your non-district schedule put together, and you're not getting off on the right foot, that's the game that helps you get off the right foot, is what I guess I'm getting at.
Yeah, and our first 4 games are pretty tough. We got Tampa Bay Tech, and then we go to Armwood comes to us, and then we go to Cocoa, and then we go to Miami Northwestern. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty tough start to the season.
A lot of travel in that Cocoa Northwestern.
A lot of travel, but after that travel,
home cooking.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Speaking of home cooking, we're not cooking anything here, but home of the 941 Sports Zone podcast is Douglas Jeep and Monty Jacobs and his whole crew here, again treating us like royalty and getting everything ready to go. We're got a nice Jeep over here. The Sloth is got a flag in his hand instead of a football, and he's always sort of repositioned for us every week, and we do appreciate them. And also looking forward to this week's What's Bugging Me, the Truly Nolan segment for What's Bugging Me. I hope you had a little time to get something to bug you.
There's a lot that bugs me.
All right, they're good. Yeah. I had a lone What's Bugging Me a couple weeks ago that I felt better after that, by the way. If anybody's wondering about that, I did feel really good after I got everything off my chest. Everything was bugging me as well, so I got it off of there. With that, we'll take our first break tonight. Come back here and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on statewide with the universities for football, and we'll talk a little bit about what we started talking about before, that realignment of the conferences. With that, we'll be back here at Douglas Jeep shortly.
It's the Make This the Summer event at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Now is the time to take advantage of these great deals and make this summer awesome. Get a hot deal on a new Jeep Compass from only $299 per month. Or own the road in a new Ram truck from only $328 per month. Make waves with a new Jeep Grand Cherokee from only $399 per month. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event going on now at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Who has the area's hottest deals and hot new wheels? Douglas does!
Welcome back to Douglas Jeep and the 941 Sports Zone podcast. And Coach, when we went away on break, we were talking a little bit, started preview a little bit about our state segment, which we'll talk a little bit about college football in the state of Florida. FSU, UF, Miami, UCF, USF, the Big Five. I guess each one of them in a sort of a different phase of where they would be, in other times of their history. FSU on the rise.
Yeah, I think FSU and Norvell are going to do a really good job. And not just this year. Like they've landed some big recruits.
Yes.
In the last week.
The second 5-star
Defensive
cornerback.
back.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's a free safety.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got Charles Lester III, and you've got I think it was KJ. Some his name. I forget his name. I was talking to somebody about today.
But they got some other. I mean, they have the best class in Florida so far.
Yeah. So they're on the uptick. Got a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback, and Jordan Travis.
Right.
And you've got the one kid who's a receiver, Wilson. What is he, like 6'7"?
Well, they got a bunch of receivers coming back, a bunch of returners coming back.
So they're going to be formidable, and they're going to do a lot in the ACC. And I think this is a year where Coach Norvell.
I tell you what, it's going to be if I don't know. Do you remember watching Norvell when he was at Memphis?
I did a little bit. I mean, it was like I shouldn't say I've watched him when he played against UCF once or twice.
When he was at Memphis.
Yes.
And they were a tempo team.
Yes,
and
they
were.
were.
They were really, really good.
And they had athletes all over the place. They had guys who could catch the ball everywhere.
But not like they have athletes now.
No. But again, they're playing against athletes maybe to a higher caliber as well. But you're right. He's right now where the point where he hasn't even really put it into fifth gear as far as what.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It might be lights out this year. I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking either FSU is going to be totally lights out, and they're going to just be people are going to be just totally shocked, or it's just going to be 8-4.
Yeah, blah.
Yeah,
couldn't and anything's possible. But the big, I tell you, sometimes those first games, big first game can really be a home run or just an absolute. And they get LSU right off the bat, and that's going to be one heck of a football game. I mean, last year's game was competitive, but it was sloppy. FSU was kind of like didn't have their feet underneath them, and Brian Kelly was his first game as the head coach at LSU.
What day is that on?
I say I should know this,
is
but
that
I don't.
Memorial Day game?
Labor Day. I think it's a Labor Day because that's what it was last year. It was a Labor Day game. So
that's a good game. That's
that
really good game.
That first weekend is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it really is phenomenal. So,
and Bama's playing Texas again.
Yep,
on that same weekend.
Believe so.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some stuff happening that first weekend.
That's a big game.
There's they're all coming out of the gate, and I think what you're seeing scheduling wise is a precursor to what scheduling is going to be like when these conferences do kind of become what they're going to become, because you're going to want to play. Hey, you know what? We're going to play our 8-9 games, whatever, in conference. We got 3 other ones. I think the days of, which is probably a bad thing for some of the smaller schools, could get the big checks to come in and get their head kicked in by a bigger school.
Right.
I think now it's going to be no. We want to go out there and play the best and do really because it's going to come down to a recruiting tool. It's going to come down to how you're ranked at the end because you look at it and if you let's just say I'll use Georgia as an example. Supposedly. And I'm not, this is no indictment of how things shook out for them, but their schedule this year is easy. I mean, because they're the number one team in the country, so it always looks like a little easy. You're favored in every game, but they didn't schedule tough. And let's just say you got 18 teams in your conference.
They scheduled like 10 years ahead of time.
True. You're right.
Not all of them, but they've scheduled way in
and they got to play the East, which is a little bit weak in the as far as because you line up Kentucky, Florida, Vandy, South Carolina. They're good schools, but they're not the it's not the LSU's, it's not the A&M's, it's not the the teams that have been really kicking it, doing well over there on the west side.
Florida has. How long does the Florida coach have?
He's got 4 years.
How long does he have if he goes 5-6, 5-7?
It's already been laid out for him because anything over 5.5 he's a positive because Vegas gave him the 5.5 as the line for his over and under.
That is Vegas line for Florida.
5.5 is the win total.
Okay, but what happens? Do you think he makes it through a 5-win season?
Yeah, I think he does because everything is riding on this 2024 recruiting class. He's number 3 in the next cycle coming through. The 2024. He's the number 3 class at this point, and he's got his quarterback coming in, a 5-star kid you're hearing rave reviews about. He's got all these other guys that he's helping recruit, doing all kinds of good stuff. So it's gonna happen that he's gonna get that class in his 3rd year, and they're gonna give him the 4th year to see if you have sophomores now in the program that are going to be able to propel the team to a certain level. Now what does that mean? You still got the big dog in Georgia at the top, So maybe it's that you're fighting for that top space, but he'll have to get to that point. He has to really make a large. The big leap is not from 1 to 2; it's from 2 to 3 from here. That's what it's going to come from. He's going to show that. But to go back to FSU, I think I will tell you this: I think they win the ACC this year. And
yes, I'm.
But you mentioned a potential flat, but I think they're the ACC champion this year because I don't know if anybody's really popping off the page other than them right now in that conference. That seems to be the.
And it seems like Clemson is.
I don't know what's going on there.
A little slide.
It seems Clemson seems a little lost. Like they lost their identity a little bit. I don't know if it's because Dabo didn't want to do the transfer portal, and I don't know what it is, but they seem a little lost. The quarterback position didn't really come. After Trevor Lawrence left, they didn't really hit it with the big kid from California, right. DJ Uglugli.
Where's he at now? He's somewhere.
He's somewhere big. I want to say Oklahoma State or something like that, but I don't know for sure. But I thought that was where he might. Oh no, I think he went out west to Oregon State. Oregon State, I think is where he's at.
Like
yeah. So he out there. But the idea is it didn't really work out for them. A couple of guys that were like, remember the kid from Lakeland, Bowman, the running back. Right. He was a big guy. He was there for 3-4 months. He went to Florida. Now he's at UCF. There's a lot of things that Clemson. It just hasn't been like they lost a little bit of their momentum. And see if they can gather it back. But FSU, watch them this year, guys. I think they're going to be really good. UF, we just mentioned them. Obviously, 5.5 is the over under.
How many games did they win last year?
6. And they went meteorically downward after the season. The bowl game was an embarrassment. That's what it was. 31-3 against Oregon State. Just wasn't even in the game. Players weren't even trying. It was now he has jettisoned a lot of those players according to they weren't really bought in or whatever it may be. And I get that. There's some cultural changes with any coach.
Right.
And you come in, you could have a guy following Nick Saban. He has his own culture unless he's the guy off the staff. There's always going to be somebody who wants to change it around to their own ways of doing things. So we'll see what happens with them. Defensively, I think they'll be better. Offensively, I just don't know. It's going to be running the whole time. Although they got some guys they were talking about today that are speedsters. One kid in particular we played against, kid from Northwestern, speedy wide receiver. His name was Andy Jean or Gene. Mm-hmm. He's one of their guys that they're dependent on this year. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But the SEC is tough. It's hard to kind of get better when you're sort of taking a team apart and building it back up. Taking the long road as far as pulling that back together. Miami, I don't know. Miami seems like
they're in trouble. I think with they losing their donor and especially with them getting those kids there with promises now they might not be able to fulfill.
Well, a lot of that goes back to what that we talked about one of our first podcasts with Jalen Rashada's situation from Florida, Miami, all that different money. The first money, that reason Florida jumped on the money the way they did was because Miami had promised a lot of money, and didn't really work out for him. And they also lost the corner from Lakeland last year when he was going to go. He went to Colorado.
Cromie McLean.
Yeah. So they've had some guys, and they haven't really kind of got the well full. I think they got a decent team, but I'm just not sure where they are. I think from the look of them last year and what they've done in the offseason, I'm still seeing a mid-pack ACC kind of school. I mean, never doubt that they could do something quickly down there with the base of players they have down there, but I don't see them as being a team that's going to make a big splash this year in the ACC.
Well, we'll see. I think it all depends on how their quarterback plays and all those things.
USF, brand new coach, trying to get everything sort of up to speed there. We got Wes Wolf at the USF, one of the Venice players from back in the day. That's a total rebuild right now. They're trying any way possible to rebuild it. I think they're banking on their on-campus stadium being a real push towards getting better recruits, keeping kids local if they can. But I think right now they're probably going to be struggling to win 2, 3, 4 games this year.
Yeah, I think you're correct on that. They lost a lot of kids in the portal, and
right.
So.
Yeah. And then I left UCF for last because I really think that UCF is a very interesting program right now. They're in the Big 12, which is a move, and now it looks like a great move because they got all these teams that are going to be playing from all over the place. Really kind of nationalizes what they're doing there. I think Gus Malzahn's always been a really good coach. I think he gets in his own way sometimes. If you watch him coach, I can only imagine that's kind of how he is all the time. Looks a little bit sort of scattered and papers in his hands and screaming and yelling and going fast.
I think they have a pretty good roster. I think they're gonna do very well.
They've done well with guys who have left other programs and landed at UCF. Ironically enough,
forever.
Right. Back in the day when they were 1AA, that was hey, I'm not making it here. UCF was the way to go. You didn't lose any eligibility. You could play right away. So it was a way to go. But you're seeing that now with the portal. The UCF's getting some players. And so interesting. We'll see what happens with them. I think it's going to be, more than anything, going into a new conference, I don't think you get any sort of weeks off, if you want to, you know what I'm saying? The conferences they played before, they were the best team in that conference for a number of years. That's been around the top, let's say. And now you're playing some teams that are the real deal. You're going to play a lot of Big 12 schools.
That might have some effect for sure. There's no doubt about that.
And then the travel schedule. Don't forget that too. Now this year you're going out to Oklahoma. You're going to Texas. You're going all different places. So the travel might be something that also can wear and tear on you as well. But I think UCF will make a splash in the Big 12, and we'll see what goes with that. I did hear one rumor. You hear these different pundits talk about different stuff that if there was more realignment between as these schools start to morph into the Big 10 and the Big 12, and they start to talk to each other and say, this is kind of silly to have a team from Florida out here or this or that the SEC would be interested in getting UCF.
Really?
Well, don't forget, it's a media market. It's Orlando, so it's a big area. So they would be able to kind of capture that market, and the SEC wants that. They like to have those big media markets so they can make their money on their TV packages. So that's a big one for them.
That's kind of hard to envision, UCF and the SEC.
You would never have thought it, right, back in the day? And now the other thing you heard, they talk about FSU real fast, which could be a distraction, that they've sort of put it out there, that they're looking to maybe leave the ACC if things don't get a little, maybe
and head to the SEC.
Well, that's not really their option. It's the SEC's option. They got to get invited. Right. But the big thing is what I understand is that in order to get out of the ACC deal they have to pay them $140 million to get out of it. And I don't know where that money's coming from. It's a lot of money. Yeah. It's a lot of money. So we'll see what happens. Real quick, too, we talked about the realignment with those schools going from the Pac-12 now to the Pac-4, going to the Big 10. And it's good that the Big 10 I think it's going to be 4 conferences. It's not going to be a West, Midwest, but it's going to be the 4 conferences. There'll be a conference champion. Obviously, they'll figure that out. But with the playoff system, going to be the 12 teams, the top 4 getting the bye, and the 8.
That's not this year, though.
No, it's not.
It's next year.
Right. So that'll be interesting how it works out. But to have it regionalized that way, I think they'll figure out somehow how to work that out. But the one thing I was going to ask you too. Does Georgia three-peat?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think Bama's going to reemerge.
I think a lot, and I know Bama falls into the same category as Georgia with this, but new quarterbacks, it's tough to be that guy, come in brand new and do and keep it going. I think psychologically, there's always a little bit of that. You don't get lazy. Would never say that in any way, shape, or form. But it's hard to maintain that for 3 years in a row. It really is.
For 3 years.
The turnover on that. Not every guy you recruit is going to be the next first-round draft pick at defensive tackle, or he could be great, but he may not be that great. Right. That kind of thing. So we'll see how that works out. So I agree. I know that they're a heavy favorite. The line is heavy for them to 3.
Really?
Yeah. I think that they're really out there because. Again, people look at the schedule and looking at how they're putting things together, and they've got these guys.
I think they said what was it? Minnesota was the last team to three-peat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back to like early 50s.
15s or 50s.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I'll look that up on the break, but I think that's for sure. There's been a while since there's been a three-peat in college football. All right, that's the bit of a preview, and we'll talk more about college football, obviously, as the season goes on, because we're not even there yet, and there's a lot to talk about. Wait till the season starts. There'll be a heck of a lot more. And with that, we'll take our next break and come back to Douglas Jeep and the 941 Sports Zone and talk about the NFL, the big dog, the NFL season coming up here next, 4 or 5 weeks coming up, right after Labor Day week. NFL kicks off with their 17-game schedule. We'll talk a little about the NFL, about some of the big stories out there, and maybe some predictions on some division winners and see what we can come up with. With that, we'll take a short break and be back here with the 941 Sports Zone in a little bit.
It's the Make This the Summer event at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Now is the time to take advantage of these great deals and make this summer awesome. Get a hot deal on the new Jeep Compass from only $299 per month. Or own the road in the new Ram truck from only $328 per month. Make waves with a new Jeep Grand Cherokee from only $399 per month. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event going on now at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Who has the area's hottest deals and hot new wheels? Douglas does!
And welcome back to the 941 Sports Zone and Douglas Jeep. Douglas Jeep, Monty was just here at the desk during our break, talking a little bit about his ideas on some things for the season. Monty's always got a good idea or two. We always got to listen to him. He's comes up with some interesting ideas.
He's very excited about the season. There's no doubt he has some good ideas.
He's a heck of a marketer.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. And again, coming up after this segment, the Truly Nolan What's Bugging Me segment. I know you're still kind of kicking some things around, but I got mine already. I previewed it a little bit, so we'll see if I can if it comes out of my mouth the way I just previewed it before we came back from break. With that, we're going to go national now and talk about the NFL. Obviously, the NFL is it's the big dog, man. That's the pro sport that seems growing larger and larger momentum every year. It seems like the season is now 11 months long. Maybe you get a break in June with no action happening. But the NFL takes up a lot of space in the sports world, and big stories every year. Anything you're looking for to watch this season yourself and coming out the gate with the NFL?
Well, personally, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I really, I'm a big fan. I'm very impressed with how he plays, and I'm just curious to how he's going to end up doing. Also, Bill Belichick, how's the Patriots going to do this year?
And that's a big question mark because Belichick keeps his system in place. I mean, he's about culture and the right guy and everything else. But, sometimes in that situation, you can fall behind talent-wise. A lot of questions with Mac Jones, a quarterback right now, if he is the guy or not. And so there's definitely some question marks in an AFC East with Aaron Rodgers in it now that's going to be way better than it has been the last few years. Buffalo, again, has been the big dog for 3 years there now. And the Dolphins, I'm not sure how I feel about the Dolphins this year. I know this is one of the local teams. I'm not quite sure if Tua is the answer. I'm not quite sure if all the things they're putting together are the answer. It's a real question mark to me.
I like him. I like Tua. I like him. I think that I like the coach. I think that I think they'll do better than they did last year. And they didn't do terrible.
No, they didn't. And I think one thing I saw from them, they had some swagger to them last year. I don't know if that means good things this year or it means overconfidence. I don't know what it is, but I definitely saw something where sometimes if you think you're good, you are good. You can't think you're bad and you're going to be good. That's for sure. But I mean, I think they really felt like they were like deservedly to be moving towards the playoffs. And then, like anything else in sports, a few injuries here and there maybe have kind of curtailed their momentum last year.
I'm also excited to see how Bryce Young fares. They named him the starter.
Again, a really good thing to look after because Carolina is not a terrible team, and he's never failed.
Right.
Where he played at what we would say maybe the top 5 biggest schools in the country in high school, modern day,
right,
and killed it. You know what I mean? Goes right from modern day. Was he 5'11"? What they measure him in the combine? He was 5'10". 10, yeah, and but makes all the throws, can move in the pocket. He's sort of the guy you want to have. You want a guy who can move around a little bit, but it's going to be a matter of how much punishment he can take or wants to take.
I think he put some weight on.
Well, he'd have to, muscle-wise and some things. He's got to put some density on there because if he's going to run around at 5'10", 170, he's definitely not going to last.
It's a different world, that's for sure.
No, I like that what you said though. Good, interesting to me. I'm interested to see how Green Bay does without Aaron Rodgers. Just kind of taking your story with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets to see if Jordan Love is the next guy.
I think Green Bay's fans are going to be pretty sad.
Well, they were equally as sad for when Brett Favre left.
Yeah, but I think this is a little different.
You're right. I think Jordan Love, again, hasn't shown anything. But
I just don't think
know.
Jordan Love's the next great quarterback.
And their division is not an easy division either. Minnesota's been good.
Right.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is more than serviceable at quarterback. The Lions, they're the team that everybody's got a lot of interest in.
Yeah.
Because what Dan Campbell has done as a coach, I mean, he came out with a lot of bravado and sort of this big guy kind of talking up this team, how tough they're going to be and whatever's going to. And
speaking of the Aaron Rodgers, I want to say Monday tonight is Hard Knocks.
Yeah, should first come out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be the first thing, and it's going to be interesting because I think they're going to focus heavily on Zach Wilson.
They got to. Well, I think they're going to obviously focus
on the quarterback.
in the quarterback room.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But again, that division is going to be tough for Green Bay. Detroit's good. Chicago, we'll see about them. But I think those other two teams are going to give Green Bay a bit of a tussle. Interested to see how the NFC East works out. Philadelphia being the big dog, but Dallas, they're always either on the rise or they're crashing down. The Giants put a lot of stock into some things. They put a lot of money into Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, the quarterback, and they got Saquon Barkley back. So interested to see how that works out. Not because I think the local team, Tampa Bay, I don't know what's going to happen there.
God, there's nothing that
No.
wants me to watch it.
Is it Baker Mayfield? Is it Kyle Trask? I'm hearing Kyle Trask has been playing very well, and maybe he's going to give Baker Mayfield a run for that starting position. They've got receivers. I don't know about the O-line. The defense is kind of Todd Bowles has always been the guy there on the defenses. He should have a good defense, but I don't know. And that whole division is in sort of a wait and see mode with Derek Carr going to New Orleans,
Right.
Atlanta kind of making a few shakeups here and there, and then of course Carolina, your guy Bryce Young there. See what happens with it. So, but I will say this. Question for you. Quarterback's always been a very important position on the football field. I don't care how far back you go, leader. Back in the day, they called the plays, whatever it was. Right now, do you feel like more than any other time, the quarterback is the most important player in the history? At this moment, how important are quarterbacks in the history of the game? I think the most important is right now. You have to have a great quarterback.
Are you talking about NFL?
NFL.
I think there's no question about it. And I think you see that, especially when teams lose their quarterback, it's because that seems to happen an awful lot. I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks started last year, the number, but I'm guaranteed it was way more than 32.
If you looked at the teams right now that are predicted to be the bottom level teams in the NFL, I can promise you they don't have a top level quarterback.
Right.
All these guys that are kind of making it or making their way up. That's even like go back to your Belichick, your New England thing. Is Mac Jones in that top 15, top 20? No, I don't think he is. He's not. He's the fourth best quarterback in his division at this point. So if you don't have that guy, the guy you can really hang your hat on. I mean, look what happened in the last couple of years with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, how he propelled them to a certain level. Last year, Trevor Lawrence starts figuring it out. Boom, there goes Jacksonville.
That's another one I'm interested in how they proceed this year. What's this, his fourth year or third year?
Lawrence is to be his third year.
Third year, right.
And don't forget Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl champion coach, is there in Jacksonville. So if anybody's going to develop him, he's probably going to do the job.
Right.
And then you've got Mahomes, obviously in Kansas City. He's the big dog right now. He's the guy that seems to be. He has all the tools and then some. His arm angle he throws from, just
behind the back.
He makes those. He made a throw like that the other day in practice. He made it behind the pack.
But
throw.
it wasn't. It was a designed.
Yeah.
If you watch that show, The Quarterback, it's great. That they actually spend time and they get to develop some of their own plays. It's pretty cool.
So all those guys, and look at Justin Herbert out in San Diego. I think he's the highest paid quarterback in the league right now. They just signed him a few days ago. to a big extension because they don't want to lose him either. So you've got to have a guy that you can sort of hang your hat on. And if you don't, it's really difficult. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if you were here at the time, but running backs are becoming a dime a dozen. They're just, that's a terrible thing to say, but Saquon Barkley is a superstar in this league, and he couldn't get more than $11 million a year. And the quarterback, just for Justin Herbert, fourth year, just got a $52 million a year or something like that. So,
well, the thing is, the running back, he could be done next snap.
Exactly right. And they were saying, like any position in the NFL, what is it, 2.5, 3 years, 3.5 years is the longevity average wise for an NFL player. But a running back might even be less than that in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Jets got a kid in the second round last year from Iowa State, Breece Hall. He was rookie of the year for the first 5 games. Boom, blows his knee out. He's young. He's going to be back for this season. But is he? The question mark, is he the same guy?
Right. He may never start again.
Right.
He could, but there's a chance he doesn't.
And how long does it take him to get up to speed? He might be healed enough to play, but is he going to be playing at the way he played last year?
Right.
So that risk is a big one. And they're talking about trying to manipulate the salary cap or giving the running backs coming out shorter first contracts. Well, that's an iffy situation.
No, I don't think that's fair.
Well, think about this. If let's say you come out of college,
D linemen and O linemen are just as short.
You come out of college, right? And you're a running back, and that you get drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. You get a signing bonus for a couple $100,000. You sign a 4-year contract at $300,000 a year. You got 4 years, right? So you're like, hey, I got 4 years. I'm making $1.2 million plus this. I'll bank on my 5th year. Hopefully that comes up. What if they said, no, you're going to get a 2-year contract. It's going to be like a 2-year tryout. And if you're not the guy after 2 years, you're out of the league in some cases. So you look at it from both sides. Would you take the guaranteed 1-2 with a signing bonus out of college and try to get to that 5th year for the next contract? Or do you go, only give me 1 or 2 so I can try to re-sign myself down the road?
Who's the running back from the Vikings?
Dalvin Cook.
Okay, do you know he might end up with his brother?
Yep, in Buffalo.
Yeah, that would be really weird.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, because they're just afraid to sign him to a long-term deal, and now he's out there kind of doing this tour around the NFL, going to camps.
He's great. He's explosive.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's the guy you want. He's a 15-touch guy with over 100 yards because he's going to get a couple catches.
Right. Does it all.
Yeah, he does it all.
He's home run ability, everything.
Yeah, and he was like I said, when he came out of Miami Central,
right,
it was him and another running back, and he wasn't even the guy that was the best running back. He was
Yearby.
Yeah.
He
went to Miami.
Yeah.
So they had some pretty good players back in the day. All right, it's early, but and again, we're talking some teams. What team do you like as far as give me a handful of teams that you like as far as you think are locks to be in the playoffs?
Well, I like the Jets to get there.
Okay.
I do. I think the Bears have a chance.
Okay.
With Justin Fields, obviously Mahomes, and the Chiefs. I like Minnesota. I'm gonna say Bryce Young goes in the playoffs.
Okay, I like that. I like just in no particular order. I like the Chiefs to make the playoffs. I like the Bills to make the playoffs.
Oh, definitely the Bills.
I like the Bengals to make the playoffs.
Yeah, those guys for sure.
So I'll give those. I'll say those 3 I like the most in the AFC.
I agree with those 3.
In the NFC, I like the Eagles to repeat in that division. I think Dallas is going to go down. I'm not a big believer in Dak Prescott. I think he's good. I don't think he's great. I like the 49ers because even with Purdy coming back, and I think they've got enough guys there that they'll be good. And their division is, it's not great. Arizona's supposed to be the worst team in the league, so you're gonna get 2 wins there. And so I'm not convinced. The Rams are sort of in a little bit of a mess. I'm not sure about them either. Seattle. Interesting team, Seattle, but I don't know if they're there yet either.
Yeah.
I can't feel about that. I will say this, though, as far as teams that I like that are on the rise, I like the Jets. I like the Lions. I like Jacksonville as well. With Tennessee kind of going down a little bit, Houston and another rebuild for them. The Colts, who knows with the Colts? I mean, they've just been all over the place. If Anthony Richardson is the starting quarterback at the Colts, you don't know what you're going to get at that situation.
They said he's 251 pounds right now,
and probably can run a 4.4.
Yeah.
If he pans out, it's a hell of a pick. He's a game changer. He's a game changer.
No, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
So those teams in particular, obviously, there's going to be somebody you don't expect. NFL always gives you that, and there's always going to be a battle down at the end to who makes the playoffs. Those last couple spots. So looking forward to a good season there. We got a way more to go with the NFL. We'll do some fantasy stuff in a couple weeks and talk about that kind of stuff as well. With that, we'll take our final break of the night. Come back with the Truly Nolan What's Bugging Me and some predictions. And are you ready for what's bugging you yet? Or are you still on the fence?
I'm thinking of some things, yeah.
All right, good. With that, we'll take a break and come back shortly with those two segments. See you back here in a little bit.
It's the Make This the Summer event at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Now is the time to take advantage of these great deals and make this summer awesome. Get a hot deal on the new Jeep Compass from only $299 per month. Or own the road in the new Ram truck from only $328 per month. Make waves with a new Jeep Grand Cherokee from only $399 per month. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event going on now at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Who has the area's hottest deals and hot new wheels? Douglas does!
And welcome back to the last segment of tonight's 941 Sports Zone podcast. And Coach, it's time for the Truly Nolan What's Bugging Me section. And if you're ready to go first, I'll let you go ahead and go first.
All right. Well, this doesn't have anything to do with sports, but grocery store prices are really, really bugging me. Like I could go to the grocery store and get 5 or 6 items at $60.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable.
I'll tell you the only good deal in the grocery store right now, if you go to Publix, the new Publix, they have wings that they sell by the pound, and you can get like a lot of wings for way less money than it costs you at the store. So if you ever want to walk out feeling good, yeah, there's a Publix down here, right just a little south of Douglas Jeep. And if you go there, it's on Saturday and Sunday, they have a hot bar, and they have like 6 different kind of wings. It's all like they're like the way you like them. They're not breaded. They're cooked real well.
You just put them in. They weigh them.
They couldn't weigh them, but it's like a scan code. The bigger box is like $22.
Stuff as many in there as you can.
I followed 2 kids in there. They had to be 16, 17, and I'm like, that lid ain't gonna close. Like, yeah, it is. It was all mangled. There was stuff sticking out the side. They scanned it themselves and they were out. They were good.
Well, Detweiler's, you can get some good deals at Detweiler's. That won't kill you. And you can also at the Aldi.
Okay.
Aldi has a little bit better prices, but it's unbelievable.
Well, for a while there was eggs that were like you didn't want to get an egg anymore because the egg was like $3 an egg. It was crazy with how much it was costing.
Right.
But there's just things that now that I look and I go to buy it and I'm like a six pack of beer is like $11. I mean, it's like what? I'm not a big beer drinker, but I mean I have to have it at the house, right? So I'm like, I'm like, nope. I'm not doing that.
$11
for depending on what you're kind of get, you know what I mean? So there's some things that it is. There's definitely some sticker shock when you go in the store.
You need to go to Bush. Bush is not $11, is it?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay, good.
It might be $11 for a case.
Yeah.
But any of that stuff, I mean, now it's like everything's it all kind of just popped. I mean, there's a lot of factors and all that stuff, but it's like, my goodness.
But I think there was just like in the last couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, there was another like boom, another like spike in prices.
Well, everything revolves around the trucking industry and the gas prices and everything else, and especially in the summertime, the summer blend. Now they're not going to. It's all these little things that factor into the rise in cost of things. And you're right. There was a little pop over the summer. I was like, okay, I noticed the same thing. I didn't have 6 items. I think I had 7 or 8, and I was in that range that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And I'm like, I just got some bananas and some.
Yeah.
I don't know what did I get? Yeah. I'm like, and then if I self-scan, A couple times I'm like, did I scan it right? I'm like looking at the receipt. If I did it wrong, I overscanned or whatever I did.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So that's interesting because yes, that is something that if you don't do a lot of grocery shopping, which I don't know, maybe once a week. How often are you in there?
I mean, I go sometimes just to pick up some things for Justice, but and I went last week and I just got like, it was like I walked out with 2 bags and it was like $75. I'm like, what are some of these bags?
I got a gold bar in here somewhere. Who knew? So here's what's bugging me. So I talked a little bit about the last couple of weeks about the women's national soccer team, U.S. national soccer team, and their World Cup. And I talked a little bit about how I was surprised that the media wasn't following them as much as I thought they would. Fox had the games that they were showing them on FS1. I know live games from Australia and New Zealand.
I heard some things about it coming up, and I was excited to watch it, and I didn't hear real much.
No, it was
until there's a bunch of stuff on social media now about the missed kick.
Right. So they lost. 2 of their best players, 3 of their best players. One hit a post, 1 and 2 sent it wide. Megan Rapinoe, who has been in the team for a long time, was one of the ones who missed. And then the Swedish team hit one, and the last, there was sudden death at that point. Goalie blocked it. It went off her hand up in the air, and it never hit the ground in the goal, but it ended up crossing the line. And they had soccer's gotten to where it's like tennis or anything else that has all these electronic things, and it actually, they're saying, and maybe it's for effect, but I think it looked that way, that the ball fully crossed the line in the air by like millimeters. Like it was that you could just see where the line was, where there was a space where and they went in, and they.
So that's the rule. The whole ball has to cross the line.
The whole ball has to cross the line. Yeah, for it to be a goal. And so that did it, and then they ended up losing. So with that, the team before this, and then before the loss, and even before, and then even after the loss, took some criticism. In particular, from a former player, only a few years removed from the team, Carrie Lloyd, was doing some analyst work for Fox, and sort of questioned their want to, that whether they were really putting it all on the line. Maybe if they had sort of become sort of, I wouldn't say prima donnas, but they were the effort wasn't there in some cases.
Right.
They weren't executing as well, and they didn't really, and they took offense to it, but rightfully so. But the offense that was taken was, you're not allowed to say that. And then everybody who supported the team was like, you can't say that. Well, why can't you say it? I mean, we can criticize, and I get that people say, well, it's not patriotic and it's a national team. No, my favorite teams, I'm more critical of my teams than I am of any. If Francis is a Miami Dolphin fan, I'm sure he watches the Dolphins and he's like, what is going on here? You're screaming at the TV set, you're upset about the game, and you're critical of your team. So to be if you're the national team, then there's going to be criticism if you're not performing at the expectation level.
That's part of what you sign up for.
It's part of what you sign up for. So you're good to go. You can't always be the victim. That's one of that. I guess that's bugging me the most.
You can't say no one can say anything bad about me because we're the Team USA.
Right. I was the victim because I didn't get paid enough. Okay, check mark. We'll figure that. But it's constant, this whole thing about you want to be empowered. You want to be this. You want to have all the respect. Equal this, equal that. But you don't want to get criticized when something doesn't go right. Sports that's why you have an analyst on a dais or behind a desk talking about what happened in the game.
Right.
There's got to be critique, and if you're going to be that thin-skinned about it, it doesn't make any sense. You're going to get, and they get criticized for other things they don't like either. Like, well, you're going to get criticized because you didn't put your hand over your heart or you didn't sing the national anthem. People are watching that stuff. If you don't want to do it and you have the right cause, then just take the criticism. It's okay. Nobody's saying you can't do it. They're saying they don't like you doing it. So you can't be the best team. You can't want all the same money. You can't want to get ticker tape parades when you win. All that stuff. If you're not going to be able to take the criticism, and that bugs me that they want to be defensive and people want to defend them being victims. They're not victims.
Right.
They're making great money. They're playing a game that they love. They're doing it for their country. And you know what? They came up short. They got criticized for it. You have to take it. You just can't.
Well, you have to know if you come up short, you're going to get criticized.
You would think.
There's a lot of people that want you to win.
Oh, don't worry about it. You've got the red, white, and blue on. No, people want to see you win. And if you didn't you didn't score any goals. So you think that it wasn't a 6-5 slobber knocker. It was nothing happened game. And then, and then you lost you put yourself in a position to lose. You had a chance to win. I understand it, but they danced that fine line.
Right.
And you can't do that. And a lot of times they were the favorite by a lot. And when they didn't make it, they should expect people to
They were out
criticize
pretty
them. early,
huh?
Earliest ever.
Wow.
They made it. They barely made it through the preliminary round and got to the knockout stage, which is you lose your outs, the Sweet 16, if you want to call it that. And they lost in the first game of that round. So anyway, that's what's bugging me. Any predictions for this week, Coach?
No. Well, I like to say I'm going to predict Bryce Young makes the playoffs.
Okay. Bryce Young is in the playoffs. I'll put that down as your prediction for this week. So Coach Peacock, Bryce Young, playoffs. Okay. My prediction is going to go along with this whole media day we did. So talking to a lot of these coaches, seeing players that are coming back on either side. I'm going to say that there are going to be 3 regional champions that come out of our area, of our 941 area code. I'm not going to say who, but I'm going to say there are going to be 3 regional champions come out of our area. We had 1 last year. And so I think 3 regional champions will come out.
Man, you made it. Well, all the 4 S's, there's only going to be one of those.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm saying the winner of the 3S District 13 and the winner of the 2S 15 is going to win the region.
District 13.
Yep.
And 15?
Yeah, 2S 15 and 3S 13. One of those teams, whoever wins the.
What about District 1S?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who would be the next one up.
Cardinal Mooney.
Yeah, but I mean, do we know? I don't know for sure, but I think that I don't know their region. But again, I said at least 3. They could be 4.
Oh, I'm just saying. I think 3 is a lot because there's 3 of them. But I would think Cardinal Mooney would have a chance.
Yeah. So I'm excited. So I think 2 out of the other 3 will win the region.
Wow. Okay.
I just maybe again it's just the momentum of the whole thing, but I just felt like everybody was just seemed to be on the right path. There was a lot of things that there's some teams on the rise. There's some teams that had a little bit of an off year. There's some teams that are legacy teams that are rebuilding. A lot of that stuff is definitely on the rise, and I think that's going to be it's going to be a fun watch. And sometimes, how it is with areas, it comes in clusters.
Right.
All of a sudden one area, and it could be if they're feeding off the momentum of other teams and they're playing good competition all the time. And all of a sudden, boom, they rise to the top and they're like, okay, they get to the region and they're like, oh, the toughest part was the first 2 games.
Right.
Right. You don't realize that. You get to the 3rd game, you're like, well, that wasn't as hard as the second one. So we'll see what happens. All right. With that, so obviously, you're gonna be super busy here the next, again, it's like 15,
you probably won't see me
weeks.
a lot on here, but the coaches show
Right.
that'll be on Thursday nights.
Correct.
7:30.
Watch the Coaches Show on the Education Channel.
There
Lots
you go.
of ways to watch it. If you have Verizon and Comcast,
Right.
You can watch. There is actually I'll make sure I get the right channel. There is high definition for the show. Way up the channel on Comcast.
Right. I think both of them have it.
Yes.
Right.
So you got to go up the ladder, like to the 1000 channel 1096 or something like that. So we'll make sure I have it all for you. But again, football season is now in full bloom, and we're looking forward to it. And obviously, you're going to be busy. A lot of fun things going to happen here shortly. So hopefully it gets
It's starting quick. I think we're about 10 days away, 11 days away.
And I know that they moved the school year up a bit, but it seems like the 18th is really early for a kickoff classic. But
it's the normal time, but it's come really fast for me.
Well, like I said, and I can only imagine the fatigue of being out in the sun is not helping out the idea that you got games coming up here shortly. So, all right, with that. Thank you, John. Appreciate you being here. And thank you guys for watching once again. I'm John Massoni, John Peacock here to my left. Thank you for watching the 941 Sports Zone. See you next week from Douglas Jeep.